picture this. You are sitting in like a ridiculously heated meeting at work. Or maybe you're frantically typing out a response on social media,
Oh, we've all been there.
right? Or you're just standing in your kitchen arguing with a friend. Notice what actually happens to your body in that exact moment.
Your heart rate accelerates, for sure.
Yeah, your heart rate spikes, the blood rushes to your face, your muscles tense up. From a biological standpoint, your body is preparing to fight a predator.
Fight or flight.
Exactly. But the threat isn't a tiger, right? The threat is just someone disagreeing with you. You are desperately, passionately trying to prove that you are right.
Because you have the facts.
You have the facts, you have the logic, you know your position is impenetrable. But, and this is the core of what we're looking at today, what if the very act of believing you are right is the ultimate proof that you are fundamentally wrong?
This is a huge question. It really forces us to confront how much of our identity is, propped up by our convictions.
Oh, absolutely.
We use our certainty about what is right and wrong, not just as a moral compass, but as the foundational architecture for our entire sense of security in the world.
And that desire for security and the sheer chaos that ensues when we try to dismantle it is the territory we are exploring in this deep dive today.
It is quite the territory.
It really is. Today, we are looking at a deeply fascinating, mind-bending philosophical essay from June 2011 by a writer named Feng. It's titled, "When You Think You Are Right, You Are Already Wrong."
It's a brilliant piece of writing.
It is. And our mission today is to deconstruct our rigid, everyday ideas of right and wrong, using this specific text to explore how letting go of judgment might actually be the key to clarity.
Because the author really challenges the reader to step completely outside of conventional cognitive frameworks.
Right.
He requires us to look at human behavior, morality, and nature without the usual safety net of our everyday categorizations.
Okay, let's unpack this. The essay starts off with a foundational premise establishing absolute neutrality.
Yes, absolute cosmic neutrality.
Feng writes that he doesn't see right or wrong, and that everything in the universe unfolds in an orderly manner. He explicitly states, quote, "Nothing in the universe is wrong, and no one's words are wrong."
Which is a massive claim to make right out of the gate.
Massive.
He sets up this universal neutrality immediately by invoking classical philosophical contrasts.
Like the ancient Chinese logical debates.
Precisely. He notes that the statement, "a white horse is not a horse," is correct. But simultaneously, the statement, "a white horse is also a horse," is also correct.
It bends your brain a little.
It does. And he pushes this further by stating that declaring everything is empty is correct, while declaring everything is real is equally correct.
So he essentially erases the boundary between truth and falsehood entirely.
He really does.
He even uses himself as the subject, pointing out that if someone calls the guy in his community a big fool, they are correct, but if they call him a god, they are also correct.
He takes all the ego out of it.
Right. And rather than keeping this in the realm of high-level abstractions, he forces the reader to apply this to deeply mundane human choices.
The everyday stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Like building a house is correct, but demolishing a house is also correct.
Cleanliness is correct. Messiness is correct.
Preferring steamed buns is correct. Preferring rice is correct. Being a vegetarian or a meat eater, both are correct.
Now, we should probably address the political comparison he makes here as well, because it is definitely designed to be provocative.
Oh, yes, the democracy line.
Right. He states that someone who practices dictatorship is correct, and someone who practices democracy is also correct.
I am so glad you brought that up, because we need to be incredibly clear with you, the listener, about our parameters for this deep dive.
Very clear.
We are entirely impartial here. We are not endorsing dictatorship, democracy, or any specific political system, nor are we validating one over the other.
Absolutely not.
We are strictly examining the author's philosophical framework, which attempts to neutralize literally all human systems.
And he uses those polarizing examples intentionally to stress test the reader's adherence to his concept of absolute neutrality.
Let's see if you flinch.
Exactly. He wants to demonstrate that from a purely cosmic perspective, human governance structures are merely organizational phenomena. They are totally devoid of any inherent objective moral weight.
Okay, but even accepting that cosmic perspective, applying this to human relationships causes some severe intellectual friction for me.
How so?
Well, I can easily accept that preferring rice over steamed buns is morally neutral. Diet is subjective.
Sure.
But Feng argues that someone honoring their parents is correct, and someone not honoring their parents is also correct.
That's where it gets uncomfortable.
Very. If everything is universally correct, it feels like we break the compass we use to navigate society. I mean, how does a community function if there is no baseline consensus on fundamental social contracts?
What's fascinating here is how Feng diagnoses that exact friction you're talking about.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the discomfort you were describing stems from a concept he calls standpoint.
Standpoint. Okay.
He argues that whenever we declare someone else to be wrong, we are exclusively evaluating them from our own standpoint.
So it's subjective.
Right. It is a structurally flawed judgment because it completely fails to accommodate the standpoint of the other person or, the other organism.
Ah, I see. So I am evaluating the person who disrespects their parents through the lens of my own cultural or personal values.
Yes.
I project my blueprint onto them, and when they deviate from my blueprint, I label them wrong.
Exactly. And Feng brings in the natural world to illustrate how absurd this projection really is.
Like with animals.
Yeah. He poses a question: who can possibly declare that the behavior and values of cats are inherently correct, while the behavior and values of mice are inherently wrong?
Oh, that's a great way to look at it. If we try to map human morality onto that, it completely falls apart.
Because the mouse views the cat as an agent of evil.
Right, a monster. While the cat just views the mouse as lunch.
Neither has access to an objective truth. They only have their biological standpoint.
They are just acting out their biology.
And he expands this to the environment itself. Who can say the winter is wrong and summer is right?
Nobody.
Or that fruit-bearing trees possess more inherent value than trees that don't bear fruit? We tend to believe our human categorization of good and bad reflects the objective universe.
But it doesn't?
No. In reality, the universe simply exists.
Okay, I can follow that logic when it comes to cats and seasons. It's safe. But the author doesn't allow the reader to stay in the safe territory of nature documentaries, does he?
He definitely does not.
He takes this neutral standpoint theory and pushes it to its absolute limits.
He forces the framework to confront the most destructive elements of existence.
Yeah, he writes that extreme natural disasters, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, droughts, and floods are not wrong.
Which is hard to swallow when people lose their homes.
Exactly. And then he crosses the line into deliberate human acts of destruction.
This is the toughest part of the essay.
It is. He states that it is not wrong for people to kill, to commit arson, to steal, or to rob.
Reading that in isolation triggers an immediate, visceral rejection.
My immediate thought was, this is crazy.
It sounds like an endorsement of pure malice.
How?
However, the framework demands we look at the second half of his equation.
Right, there's a flip side.
He states with equal conviction that it is also not wrong for others to stop these actions, to fight against them, and to punish the perpetrators.
Oh, okay.
He defines this dynamic as each performing their duty, each bearing their responsibility.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Feng seems to be describing the universe as an unfathomably massive stage play.
That's a good analogy.
Like, if I am cast in the role of the victim of a robbery and someone else is cast in the role of the robber, we are both just hitting our marks.
Playing our parts.
Yeah. But as a human being who experiences actual fear and loss, am I supposed to view the robber as just a dedicated actor and applauds the performance? I mean, it feels dangerously close to advocating for total passivity in the face of harm.
I get that. But that assumes the stage play only allows you to be a passive victim. Remember, the second half of his equation, stopping the robber, is also correct.
Ah, so fighting back is part of the play.
Yes. The police officer, the judge, the person fighting back, they are also just hitting their marks on the stage. The text isn't advocating for anarchy at all.
What is it advocating for?
It is describing a self-regulating ecosystem.
So friction and conflict are just features of the ecosystem, not bugs in the code.
Exactly. Zhuang returns to nature to ground this concept. A fox eating a chicken isn't wrong, and a wolf eating a sheep isn't wrong.
Because that's what wolves do.
Right. Thorns growing on a rose bush aren't wrong. He points out that while the growth of crops is right, the growth of weeds is also right.
Even though we hate weeds.
But a weed is not an agent of cosmic evil. It is simply a biological entity executing its programming.
And the farmer who relentlessly pulls the weed out by the roots is just executing his programming.
You've got it. The weed fulfills its nature by absorbing nutrients and spreading. The farmer fulfills his nature by protecting the harvest that sustains him.
Neither is wrong.
Neither is morally bankrupt in an absolute sense. They are two entities acting out their inherent nature, which just happens to result in a clash of roles.
Okay, that reframes conflict significantly.
Yeah.
But it brings us to a highly practical dilemma for you, the listener.
Let's hear it.
If a weed is just doing what a weed does, how do we navigate interpersonal conflicts where the other person's nature is actively obstructing our goals?
Suf addresses this directly through the lens of his own life's work.
Oh, this is the part about his community,
Yeah, he references his efforts to establish something he calls the Lifechanyuan era.
which is his utopian ideal, right?
Yes. He asserts that his efforts to build this era are correct, but maintaining his philosophical consistency, he acknowledges that the people who actively oppose and obstruct his efforts are also correct.
Which takes an incredible amount of detachment.
It does. He writes, quote, "Everyone is playing their own role in their own way," and adds that everything is a game. As long as we are immersed in the process, it is fine.
So as long as you're playing the game, you're fine.
He introduces the concept of the Tathagata's intention, which serves as a representation of the fundamental underlying nature of the universe.
Okay, Tathagata's intention.
According to this principle, it aligns with cosmic law for all life to blossom according to its own individual nature.
And he illustrates this with two excellent idioms that I just loved.
They are very visual.
He writes, "A forcibly twisted melon is not sweet," and notes that forcing a cow to drink water goes against heavenly will.
You can't force nature.
Exactly. He says, if you love heaven, go to heaven. If you love hell, go to hell. Just let everything be exactly what it is.
It is a philosophy of radical autonomy.
But practically speaking, what does this actually mean for the listener?
Right. How do we use this?
Suppose you are trying to convince a stubborn coworker to abandon a toxic process. Or, I don't know, you're trying to talk a family member out of a really harmful decision.
Real world problem.
Yeah. If you follow Zhuifan's logic, that effort is thankless and contrary to natural laws. Does this philosophy essentially instruct us to abandon all efforts to influence others and just let the twisted melon remain twisted?
This raises an important question, as it highlights a frequent misinterpretation of non-dualistic philosophy. The takeaway is not passivity. The takeaway is authenticity detached from outcome.
Authenticity detached from outcome.
Yes. The text encourages you to express your own nature fully without taking on the mathematically impossible burden of forcing the rest of the world to match your frequency. Think of it like a tuning fork.
A tuning fork. Okay, so if my nature is to advocate for a better process at work, I should just strike my tuning fork and let it ring.
Yes, ring at your frequency, pull the weed, argue for the better process, offer advice to the family member.
Just do it because it's who I am.
Exactly.
Wow.
Do those things because it is your authentic nature to do so, not because you operate under the illusion that you possess the power to force another tuning fork to magically change its shape and match your vibration.
Wow, that's profound.
The profound exhaustion we feel in life rarely comes from our own actions. It comes from our relentless attempts to force the cow to drink.
The suffering comes from the expectation of control, not the action itself.
Exactly.
That brings some incredible clarity. But, and this is a big but, just as the text lulls the reader into this harmonious idea that everyone is just playing their role and the universe is perfectly balanced, Xu executes a massive philosophical pivot.
The transition in the essay is extremely jarring by design.
Yeah, he introduces a glaring paradox.
Yeah.
If everyone is just acting out their nature, and everything from earthquakes to human conflict is technically correct in the grand scheme, why is the actual human experience so saturated with misery?
It's the ultimate question, and he confronts the reader with the undeniable historical record.
Which is pretty bleak.
It is. For thousands of years, humanity has lived in a persistent state of worry, pain, trouble, anxiety, conflict, and fear.
It's basically the defining characteristic of human history.
Suefeng argues that this persistent misery serves as empirical proof that humanity has actually been walking on the wrong path.
Wait. He writes that our entire conceptual foundation is flawed. Our understanding of life, of time and space, of our origin, it is all fundamentally wrong.
Our values are wrong.
Yeah. And because this foundation is corrupted, he concludes that any person operating within this massive wrong thinking circle, regardless of what they say, how they behave, or how they judge the world, is inherently wrong.
Anyone who firmly believes they are right is trapped in what he terms elusive thinking.
But the cognitive dissonance here is intense. I mean, we just spent the first half of this deep dive exploring his argument that absolutely nothing is wrong.
Nothing at all.
Not natural disasters, not arson, not weeds. And now he makes the sweeping claim that the entire human cognitive framework is fundamentally wrong. How does a reader reconcile a contradiction of that magnitude?
We resolve the contradiction by recognizing that he is discussing two entirely different layers of reality.
Okay, walk me through that.
Existence itself, the cosmos, the unfolding of nature, operates without moral alignment. It simply is.
That's the neutral layer.
Right. However, the human subjective experience is bound by suffering. That suffering is the alarm bell, indicating that our specific method of interacting with existence is broken.
Oh, I see. If we think about evolutionary biology, human brains developed to categorize the world into safe versus dangerous, friend versus foe.
A simple survival mechanism.
Yeah, it was a survival tool.
Yeah.
But we took that primitive survival tool and applied it to complex social and philosophical concepts, desperately trying to force an entirely neutral universe to conform to our arbitrary categories of right and wrong.
And that desperate mapping is the elusive thinking.
Mhm.
We are miserable because we are engaged in a perpetual, unwinnable war against the natural neutrality of reality.
We're fighting the universe.
Exactly. So in an absolute cosmic sense, nothing is wrong. But in a practical, experiential sense, humanity is wrong because our operating system reliably generates agony. We insist on trying to control the uncontrollable.
So if the entire human operating system is generating a continuous error log of suffering, is there any way out? Is it possible for anyone to ever truly be right?
Shifeng addresses this directly. He asks, quote, "Is there someone who is right?" And he answers in the affirmative.
He does. He writes that a person who is free from worry, pain, anxiety, concern, and fear is right.
That's the metric.
For that person, everything they say is right, and everything they do is right.
Notice how he completely divorces the concept of being right from factual accuracy or moral superiority.
Yeah, he completely redefines it as a state of being, and that redefinition sets up the final paragraph of the essay, which is just a structural masterpiece.
It's brilliant.
I want to read his exact words to capture the full effect.
Go for it.
He writes, "Existence itself and things themselves have no right or wrong. However, I am discussing right and wrong here, which proves I am also wrong. Because I can prove that I am wrong, I am right. But because I think I am right, I am wrong again."
It's dizzying.
So what does this all mean? He builds an inescapable logic trap.
A total paradox.
He writes an essay proving that the human concept of being right is inherently flawed, which means his own essay must be flawed, which validates his premise, making it right, but recognizing he is right makes him wrong again.
It mirrors the liar's paradox, the statement, "This sentence is false."
Yes, exactly like that,
Yeah.
like a software glitch.
If we connect this to the bigger picture of Eastern philosophical traditions, that paradox is not a flaw in his argument. It is the ultimate tool.
How so?
Think of it as a Zen koan. The analytical mind is desperate to solve the riddle, to neatly categorize essay as either definitively true or definitively false.
But the paradox intentionally short-circuits the analytical mind.
Exactly. It proves that you cannot think your way out of a thinking problem. You cannot use the tools of logic to escape the trap of logic.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
He forces the reader to abandon the intellectual pursuit of rightness. You realize that true rightness is not a trophy you win by dominating a debate.
It's an emotional state.
Right. It is the spiritual and emotional freedom that arrives when you finally stop playing the game of judgment altogether.
When you stop trying to wrestle the universe into submission.
Precisely.
For you, the listener, consider the immense scope of what we just broke down today. We began with the profound neutrality of a white horse and the recognition that a wolf eating a sheep is not a moral failing, but just an ecological function.
Just nature doing its thing.
Right. We examined how our deeply ingrained habit of judging the world through our narrow personal standpoint is the very mechanism that manufactures our anxiety.
We explored the idea that humanity remains trapped in a cycle of suffering because we stubbornly resist the Tathagata's intention.
We fight the flow.
We refuse to allow life to blossom according to its own nature.
We spend all our energy twisting the melon, furious that it doesn't taste sweet, and trying to force the cow to drink.
It's exhausting.
It really is. So the next time you find yourself in that heated meeting, or you feel the adrenaline spike as you type out a furious rebuttal online because you just must prove your intellectual superiority, take a breath and remember this deep dive.
Just pause.
Recognize that the physiological friction you're feeling, the desperate hunger to be validated as correct, is the ultimate evidence that you're still caught in the illusion.
It requires a profound dismantling of the ego to view the world this way.
It really does.
To leave you with a final thought to mull over, expanding on the core of Su Feng's essay, We often assume that the ultimate proof of mastery or wisdom is how fiercely and immovably you can defend your own position against attack.
That's usually how we measure intelligence, yeah.
But what if true wisdom operates inversely? What if the highest form of intelligence is demonstrated by how effortlessly you can argue the exact opposite standpoint, inhabiting a completely different worldview without ever feeling that your own identity is threatened?
When you can hold both the absolute truth and the absolute falsehood in your hands simultaneously, without fear, perhaps that is the moment you finally stop being wrong. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning, keep exploring, and we will catch you next time.